All the stuff I'm hearing about Egypt is nonsensical. And it's turning out that one of the first things I used on the program Monday, food shortages, rising commodity prices, is playing a role in what's going on in Egypt. And looky here, Mubarak says that he's going to leave in 8 months. The military's not attacked the protesters. New government's going to be in place. And yet the protesters are growing more violent. Now, why is that? That's my first question. Why is that, ladies and gentlemen? The protesters are getting seemingly everything they want. And here you've got Obama laying pipe. Now that's a stage movie device. It's where you lay down. It's like Hillary has had. This is an example of laying pipe. Hillary has had a 20-year relationship with Mubarak. So if all this works out, just by saying they lay the pipe, you can connect the fact. Oh yeah, it was Hillary and the regime. Well, we're the ones that made all this happen. Obama goes out there and he owns this now, folks. Obama goes out there and makes a speech. This is what happens, ladies and gentlemen, when you run in front of a mob and claim to be a leader, you have to take responsibility for their actions. This is why David Rodham Gergen unhappy that Obama went out and made a speech about this last night. Obama is he knows what the shape he's in. He knows he's got an unconstitutional health care bill. He knows he's got the American people 2/3 opposed to him and his policies. He desperately needs something here. So he's tried to put himself in front of this thing in Egypt to make it look like he's in charge of it. He's in charge of Mubarak leaving. He's in charge of the protesters doing the right thing. But this is what happens when you run in front of a mob and claim to be the leader. You have to deal with whatever the mob does. And right now, everything Obama wanted has happened, and the mob is getting bigger. And the mob is getting more violent. Mubarak says he's gone, not going to put his son in charge. The protesters have not been attacked. You're going to have a new government's going to be in place. And yet the protesters are growing more violent. Why, ladies and gentlemen? One of the things that we have learned that ginned all this up, in fact, there have been attempts to create this level of protest for months, and they have all failed until they started using Twitter and Facebook. This is why Egypt shut down the internet this week. These people were using the social media. All it took was some YouTube videos to show the protesters in action, rioting and looting. Hey, that looks like fun. Let's go join them. Have you also noticed, ladies and gentlemen, in Egypt, the number of protest signs written in English? Have you wondered about that? I have. Of course, it's all for the media. Anderson Cooper shows up over there. He was attacked by the mob in Egypt. He was punched 10 times in the head. We have the audio of this. CNN producer Steve Brusk tweeted, Anderson Cooper, attacked in Egypt Wednesday, said he was punched 10 times in the head as the pro-Mubarak mob surrounded him and his crew trying to cover the demonstration. Cooper then escaped to the roof of a nearby building, where he said on air that he and his crew were trying to get a neutral zone between protesters and pro-Mubarak supporters when they were set upon by pro-Mubarak supporters punching us in the head. Crowd kept growing, kept throwing punches, kicks. Suddenly a young man would look at you and punch you in the face. I don't know what side they thought CNN was on. But anyway, it's Katie Couric arrived yesterday. We don't know if she will be punched in the face, nor Brian Williams at NBC. But we'll keep a sharp eye. Now, what is going on in Egypt? They clearly have an authoritarian, socialistic regime, but it's nothing like it was under Gamal Abdel Nasser. I mean, many people in this audience probably will know who Nasser is, but some of you won't. Nasser, bad guy. I mean, Egypt under Nasser was far more repressive, punitive, socialistic than it is today. This in Egypt is nothing compared to what North Korea is, for example. Egypt is nothing compared to Zimbabwe, the old Rhodesia. Now, there clearly is a connection here to the rioting and food shortages, and you're not going to see this reported in mainstream because the shortages are brought about by us. As I mentioned Monday, all of the printing money, QE2, the quantitative easing 2, is causing a rise in commodity prices. Ethanol is causing a rise in commodity prices around the world, and it is impacting, it's having a considerable effect on people. And this is one of the reasons. So it may be about freedom, it may be a little bit about democracy, but this is economics. This is gut-level economics going on. The Muslim Brotherhood did not start this. We have now, the Muslim Brotherhood saw something to get involved in, and they have sort of merged with it and made it look like it's their event. But they are Johnny-come-latelys here. China has shut down communication sites, social websites. They do it all the time. And we just praised China, didn't we? The Chi-Coms do all of the stuff that is happening in Egypt, and we praise the Chi-Coms. So, anyway, it is what it is, which is not much that's known. Groundhog Day today, February 2nd. I just want to let you know I saw my shadow when I got up, which means that you are going to have to endure 6 more weeks of civility on this program. Let's go to the audio soundbites. We're going to start here. This is Obama last night in Washington getting out in front of the mob and claiming to be its leader.
It is not the role of any other country to determine Egypt's leaders. Only the Egyptian people can do that. What is clear, and what I indicated tonight to President Mubarak, is my belief that an orderly transition must be meaningful, it must be peaceful, and it must begin now.
Okay, so you see Pharaoh Obama ordering Mubarak what to do. This after Mubarak says he's vamonos. After Mubarak says he's leaving, he's getting out of there. In 8 months, Obama gives a speech to claim credit for it. And did you notice the Pharaoh-like reverb is back? This was at the White House. This is not, how many times do you hear presidential remarks in the White House with the Pharaoh-like, godlike reverb? So there you have it, Obama. I indicated tonight to President Mubarak, my belief, orderly transition must be meaningful, must be peaceful, must begin now. After it had already begun, well, after Mubarak announcing his intentions for all of this to happen. Here is Obama talking to the protesters.
Over the last few days, the passion and the dignity that has been demonstrated by the people of Egypt has been an inspiration to people around the world, including here in the United States, and to all those who believe in the inevitability of human freedom. To the people of Egypt, particularly the young people of Egypt, I want to be clear. We hear your voices.
We did not hear the voices of the young people in Iran in 2009. But I want to be clear, we hear your voices. And because I, Pharaoh Obama, hear your voices, I, Pharaoh Obama, have gotten rid of your most detested leader, Hosni Mubarak. And we're going to put that guy, by the way, the Egyptian people are not enamored of al-Barada, as the media would like you to believe that he is loved and adored, and everybody in Egypt wants him to be the next leader. They don't. He hasn't spent any time in Egypt. He does not have a portfolio, if you will, of great support. This is all media manufacture. So there's Pharaoh Obama. Now we go on to the state-controlled media. Drive-by media, David Rodham Gergen, CNN Situation Room. This was before Pharaoh Obama's remarks on Egypt. Wolf Blitzer said, you understand the diplomacy and all the sensitivity of what's going on? What do you think about all of this?
I'm not sure what the president can say tonight that is not going to be thrown back in his face by people in the street and by al-Baradei. This president wanted to make the hallmark of his Middle East policy his own speech in Cairo, and yet tonight may be more important because he has to walk this fine line. And, he does not want al-Baradei and the protesters throwing things back in his face. But how is he going to walk this tightrope and still be a leader?
What a question. How is Obama going to walk this tightrope? What, is somebody throwing rocks through the windows of the White House? Are there mobs of people gathered outside the White House trying to get in to change leadership? What tightrope here? I'll tell you what tightrope. I'll tell you what David Rodham Gergen knows. He's worried. Obama's taking credit for the mob, folks. I mean, why else do the speech? Trying to take credit for Mubarak stepping down, which was supposed to end all the protests. Or at least ratchet them down. It was supposed to be these guys are clamoring for new leadership. Okay, Pharaoh Obama comes in, makes it happen. Fine, everybody goes home. Except they're not going home. They're ramping up. They're getting more violent. The numbers are increasing, and the signs are more and more written in English. And so David Rodham Gergen instinctively understands that when Obama runs in front of a mob here claiming to be the leader or the impetus for the mob, then you have to take responsibility for whatever the mob does. And that's the fine line that Gergen is worried about. I mean, what if these guys end up using some sort of really bad weapon to blow up the Sphinx? And Obama owns these guys. Obama's out there claiming that we heard him. We heard you. We know you want to get rid of that Mubarak fella. 83 years old, been in there 30 years. We hear you. Here's Gergen after the speech. Wolf Blitzer said, David, you didn't think it was a necessarily good idea for the president to speak out at this very sensitive moment right now. Did the president change your mind after his God-like, Pharaoh-like with that echo and reverb speech last night?
Not really, Wolf. He wants to see an orderly transition and begin now, but he supported the idea of Hosni Mubarak running that transition, leaving him in power, and that's exactly what the people on the streets do not want. They want immediate and unconditional departure. And the president fell well short of that. I fear that from the United States point of view, we're now going to have the protesters saying the United States is resisting this, and that worries me.
Folks, I feel an incredible sort of feisty mood today. And I hear people in the media and at the highest levels of the ruling class say, and this worries me. So I wonder, did Mr. Gergen go home from CNN and sit in his living room and worry? He may have. He may have, which is, it worries me. It just worries. Would you worry about this last night, any of you? Well, I know it's unsettling, but nothing you can do about it. I mean, worrying about things well beyond your control is a waste of time. Anyway, I worry about Obama more than I worry about Egypt. If we're going to talk about being worried here, I mean, let's get things in perspective. I'm far more worried about Obama and this regime than whatever's going on in Egypt.